In this video, we're going to jump into using Creative Blur and Blend Diff to create really interesting studio shots. So in this image, I've already done the retouch using frequency separation, and then I went in and I embellished the highlights using dodging. And if you haven't seen my last video, you can find it right here. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. This is very interesting and it's very fun, and it doesn't take very long at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to our adjustment layers, add a curves adjustment. And what we're going to do is we're going to drastically affect the highlights. Now, I've already dodged this, but we can make this more interesting using Blend Diff. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull up those highlights just a little bit more, like so. Additionally, I'm going to come in and I'm going to color those highlights. And all you have to do is pull up in the blues, like so. Go to your greens, and you might want to just pull your greens to the left a little bit so that you get more of a green highlight. You can go back to your blues and you can kind of play with that as well if you want them to be even a little bluer. Let's say there. What you're going to do is double click to go into your Blend Diff. And what we want to do is maintain the highlights and reduce all of that coloring in the shadows. And you just go to the underlying layer and you can see that as you drag your Blend Diff over, it takes away all of those color adjustments and highlights from your shadows. Hold your Alt or Option key and split those so that that mask then feathers and you get a softer transition. Now, feel free to play with these. You might want to go a little bit less like that. And you're going to click OK. And then what you're going to do is click on your mask, Command or Control I to invert it. And then you're going to paint on as much or as little of that as you like. So just on the highlighted areas that you want to affect. I typically like to do this on the brightest areas. Once you do this, you can once again adjust your opacity to suit, and then you can come in back to your curves by clicking up here. And if you need to, you can pull those highlights down a little bit if they're too bright. I went pretty heavy on my dodging, so pulling them down a bit is probably better. You can adjust your coloring. And I really love the coloring of green highlights with warm shadows, which is what we're achieving right here with this. Back to your blue, I'm going to get rid of this point and use it this way instead. So if I pull this over just from the very right to the top, then you can see I can really play with really blue or maybe a little bit more of that greenish cyan color. And then in your mask as well, you're going to feather that out so that you're helping with those transitions even a bit more like that. Okay. And then if you want to, you can come in and do another curves adjustment. And this time we're going to look at just the deepest shadows, which is right here. Now you can pull those shadows up a little bit if you don't want them quite so dark. Additionally, you might want to add some red into those shadows, which will work really well with the highlights we just created. So once again, double click, and this time you're going to pull your highlights so that you reveal them again, because you want to maintain all that work that you did in the highlights in the other curves adjustment. Alt or Option, split those. Click OK. Now we're going to invert that mask, and it's the same type of thing. So you can come in and you can just apply those changes just to the darks in your image. And this really works well for your color harmony in your image. Okay, so that's using Blend Diff to create drama and color toning in your image. Let's feather that out. What we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this layer and we're going to merge them all together. So now we can see the before and the after. So we've got a little glow on her as well, which is really pretty. Let's duplicate that layer. We're going to go select subject. Once we have our subject selected, we're going to hit mask. And now we have a mask. We're going to feather that out just a little bit. We're going to come and click on the below layer. We're going to go to probably our color balance. And in the midtones, we're going to add some red. And this to me looks kind of yellow red. So let's add in a little bit of magenta so that it's more red, like so. Okay. And again, you can double click this, go to your blend if, and we're going to remove this from some of the shadows so that it's kind of just affecting the midtones. Hold your alter option and just split those so that your transition is a little bit more smooth. Okay, and now we've added that. And keep in mind that you can always go back in. Maybe you want to play with the shadows a bit. You want to add a little bit more magenta so it matches the burgundy of her bodysuit, which I think looks really pretty. Okay, now here's what we're going to do. We are going to convert to a smart object. And the reason being is that then keeps that as a transparent layer, revealing the one below. We're going to duplicate that 5 times. So this one up here is our main subject. So we'll leave that one as is. This one is directly underneath our subject. We're going to go to our move tool and we're just going to move that over to the right, something like that. We're going to go directly beneath that one and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to move that probably about the same direction out, maybe a bit more from that one. If we do that, I would come back to this one and just pull that out a bit. Okay. And then we're going to go to the second last one and we're going to move it to the opposite direction. So probably right about there. And then the one underneath it. And we're going to move that one approximately the same amount out right about here. So I think you might know where I'm going with this, but this is what we're going to do. Starting at the very bottom, we're going to go filter, blur, motion blur, and we're going to put this exactly 0 angle, and we're going to make the distance about 570. And that gives us a really pretty motion blur like that. The one directly on top of it, we're going to go filter, blur, motion blur. And this one we're going to change to 250. Click OK. And working our way up, actually, let's go to the one directly under our subject and just hit filter, motion blur. It's easier to do it this way. And then the one directly beneath it, again, we have to convert it to 570. Okay. Now, when we turn our subject layer on, now we've got a really cool looking situation happening like so. So the ones on the right side of her body, which is this side to us, you can play with the opacity a little bit more. So let's drop this opacity down. Wrong side, this one. Let's drop the opacity because maybe in the back it's a little bit clearer than these ones. So we'll just drop that, something like that. And then what you can do, so we're going to group all of these so that we know where all of these are. Right here. You can also reduce the opacity of that group if you want. But you can then come back and do another curves color adjustment. So you're going to come into your curves, you're going to clip it. And then we're going to pull the highlights up on these. And then you're going to go back into your green. You're going to pull those greens up a bit. Let's go to our blues and let's increase those blues a bit. And if you do it like this, now you've got some really, really cool awesome, unique, different things that you can play with. What I like to do with these as well is once I finish this, I'm going to just Shift Option Command E it to put it all into one layer. And I'm going to call this background. I'm going to duplicate that layer, and I'm going to call this one background as well. And I'll show you why. Because I have this really fun action, and it's called the bloom effect, but you have to make sure that both of the working layers are called background. You're going to click play, and it's only selecting the brightest highlights in your image. And the further you go this way, the less of those highlights it's going to choose. So it's entirely up to you. For this one, I want the effect to be pretty strong. And so I'm going to click OK. Next, it's going to choose a color for the highlight. And I don't want it to be this orange, obviously. I want it to be more of that cyan color right about here. I want it to be a little bit brighter than it is. So right about here, and I'm going to just click OK. And now we've got this really, really cool glow. And what you can do is reduce your fill until it's at a place that you really like it. So if you turn it on and off, you can see how much that glow has actually affected this whole image. I like it quite bright, but what I do want is I kind of want it off the eyelash area here, just a little bit. So you're just going to add a layer mask, and using a black brush at maybe about 15, I'm just going to oh so gently paint that off of the eye area, because I like that contrast. I don't want it to be too extreme. But that is some really creative ways that you can use creative blur and blend if to drastically change an image that would otherwise have just been a normal, regular studio shot.